Hello and welcome to episode number 343, where I'm focusing on the effect of stress on weight gain. I talked about the types of stress and what happens in the body when we perceive stress and how intense exercise can have an impact on chronic stress levels. So please stay tuned. Hi there, I'm your host Colette, and on this podcast I will be sharing the teachings of Ayurveda, yoga, and holistic health practices. Now, if you're new to Ayurveda, I recommend checking out the first couple of episodes where I do an introduction to Ayurveda and the mind-body types. Thanks for listening, and now here's a new episode. Hey there, it's Colette. Welcome back to the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. And this is a solo episode where I'm going to cover a subject which comes up a lot in my online consultations. And that's the relationship between stress and weight gain. When it comes to weight gain, we often focus on our food, but stress plays a major role in weight gain, and particularly weight gain around the midsection of the body. So I'm going to start by breaking down the two types of stress, which are acute stress and chronic stress. Now, acute stress is a short-term response to a sudden perceived threat or challenge. For example, an accident, an argument, a deadline at work, or intense exercise could be a challenge. The duration of acute stress could be anywhere from a few minutes to a few hours, and it can trigger the sympathetic nervous system or fight-flight response, which can cause a rapid breath, increased heart rate, muscle tension, sweating, and alertness. The second type of stress is chronic stress, and this is a prolonged, constant feeling of stress over weeks, months, or years. And it could be due to being in a job you don't like, financial stress, relationship problems, or let's face it, living in our world today, which generates this consistent undertow of stress with our devices now, meaning we have constant access to information from all over the world all at once, which is overwhelming to our nervous system, and constant notifications and the pressure to be always available. Chronic stress can lead to persistent anxiety, worry, and nervousness, which can affect our sleep, our appetite, and moods. These long-term symptoms can affect our agni, which, as you know, is our digestive fire, resulting in digestive issues, which can cause ama or toxin buildup due to a compromised digestive fire. The accumulation of ama can then go on to cause further disease in the body and mind. So we can see that chronic long-term stress has much more of an impact on our overall health and can lead to serious health issues over time. I'm now going to break down what exactly happens in the body and mind when we're stressed. Well, it starts in the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, commonly known as the HPA axis, which is a central part of the body's stress response system. When the brain perceives a stressor, the hypothalamus activates the sympathetic nervous system, which you've heard of before. It's the fight-flight response, and releases adrenaline, noradrenaline, and corticotropin-releasing hormone, which stimulates the pituitary gland to secrete adrenocorticotropic hormone into the bloodstream. This hormone travels to the adrenal glands to stimulate the release of cortisol. And cortisol is the hormone that we're all familiar with. We've heard about it before because it's the primary stress hormone. When we perceive stress, cortisol increases the blood glucose level to help increase energy as the body is getting ready to fight or flee. The cortisol suppresses any non-essential life functions at that point, reducing blood flow to the digestive system and the reproductive functions in order to send all the energy to the functions that we need for our survival. This is the reaction we want our body to have in situations of acute or short-term stress, which influences the immune system through both the HPA axis and the sympathetic nervous system and enhances the immune system function. However, when we have chronic or long-term stress, it leads to prolonged elevated cortisol levels, which can lead to the immune system function being suppressed, long-term digestive dysfunction, cardiovascular issues, and weight gain. Now, in this episode, I'm focusing on stress-related weight gain. So let's take a deeper dive into the connection between cortisol and weight gain. When cortisol is elevated, many metabolic processes are affected. Cortisol stimulates the liver to produce glucose, which increases the blood sugar levels. High cortisol levels result in the body's cells becoming less sensitive to insulin, which is a hormone that regulates blood sugar levels. Higher insulin levels promote fat storage. Cortisol has an effect on where fat is stored in the body and promotes fat storage around the abdomen, which is known as visceral fat, which is more sensitive to cortisol than subcutaneous fat, which is fat stored under the skin. Visceral fat is a metabolically active organ and is more dangerous to our health, increasing the risk of metabolic disorders like type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and hypertension. Cortisol can increase our appetite and our cravings for foods that are high in sugar and fat. Cortisol also affects the hormones which regulate our hunger and our satiety, which are leptin and ghrelin. High cortisol can decrease leptin, which signals fullness, and increase ghrelin, which signals hunger. Cortisol also promotes the breakdown of muscle tissue in order to provide amino acids to increase glucose levels. This results in reduced muscle mass, which means we're burning less energy or calories at rest, and this can lead to weight gain. So those are the physical effects of elevated cortisol levels on our body, and of course, it will affect our mind and mental gunas also. Acute or short-term stress can increase the mental quality or guna of rajas, which results in an increase in mental stimulation, focus, and movement, helping the body to be sharp and alert in a dangerous situation. And obviously, this is good in a situation where our body needs to be hyper alert when something suddenly just happened. However, in the case of long-term chronic stress, where the physical body is fatigued and lacking energy, it could lead to an increase in the mental quality or guna of tamas, leading to mental exhaustion, inertia, which is a dullness of the mind, leading to a lack of motivation. Increased tamas can also lead to a disruption in the sleep-wake cycle, poor quality of sleep or insomnia, mental fog, a lack of clarity, indecisiveness, emotional instability, mood swings, emotional eating, and a risk of anxiety and depression. Understanding these impacts of stress on our physical, mental, and emotional health only underscores the need for managing stress holistically. And stress is something that we all have to contend with today. So let's take a look at a holistic strategy for managing our stress levels. The first one is looking at, are we in alignment with the circadian rhythm? Our body and mind thrives when we live in alignment with the daily cycle of nature. So this means having a consistent sleep-wake cycle, ideally going to bed within the same 45-60-minute window every night. Being in bed by 10 p.m. will give you the best opportunity to fall asleep easily. Otherwise, you may have a hard time falling to sleep past 10 p.m. as the pitta energy elevates between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. This stimulation of the pitta energy can give you a feeling of a second wind. And so you may be tossing and turning and having a hard time going to sleep at 11 p.m. or later. The role of pitta is for transformation and conversion. And so this rise in the pitta energy at 10 p.m. helps us to digest our food, our thoughts, and our experiences from the day. It's also responsible for detox and rejuvenation, preparing our body and mind for the following day. Therefore, if you're up past 10 p.m., it means you're stealing energy from this process and you're not going to feel full of vitality the next day. That means you're going to be maybe reaching for sugar or caffeine to artificially stimulate your energy. Regular meals is also another very important rhythm that we need to respect in order to have optimal health. Now, of course, this information needs to be tailored to each individual depending on your unique constitution. But in general, we want to have our meals within that same 45, 60-minute window every day. Having your main meal at lunchtime, or at least the harder to digest proteins or grains at lunchtime when your digestive fire is strongest, is ideal. The more consistent we are with our meal timing, the more stabilized the systems of our body will be. Remember, our body loves to be on a rhythm, on a clock. And so the systems of digestion and elimination will be more consistent and we'll have more consistent energy throughout the day. Eating in alignment with your constitution and the season is important. And if you're still confused by what that means for your unique constitution, then I suggest booking a 90-minute consultation with me, and I can help you weed through all this information and educate you and tailor all this information to you and put together a detailed strategy for your diet, your lifestyle, your self-care, your exercise, your mindfulness, and so on. You'll come away from this consultation with an in-depth understanding of your mind-body type, how to manage your diet, your lifestyle, and self-care to help you maintain balance and prevent disease and enjoy increased energy, clarity, and well-being as a result. Check out the link in the show notes if you want to book, or just go to my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com, and you'll find all the links there. Now, it's also important to eat local, ideally from your farmer's market, and where you'll find all the beautiful seasonal produce. It will be abundant and cheaper, and ideally eating unprocessed foods and organic if possible. The EWG, the Environmental Working Group, just came out with their Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen. I'll put a link to that in the show notes, because if you're on a budget, this will tell you which ones you really need to buy organic, and that's obviously the Dirty Dozen. And of course, you want to avoid the ultra-processed foods or dead foods, as they have no prana or life force energy, avoiding refined sugars, refined carbs, and junk food. And by avoiding these types of foods, we're making sure that we're not stressing our body out trying to digest foods it doesn't recognize. We then need to look at our lifestyle. Ayurveda gives us lots of guidelines on how to set up our day with dinacharya, these daily self-care practices which help to keep our body and mind in balance. What we do day in, day out makes up our lives. And these simple daily routines are the foundation of balance for the mind, the body, and even the soul. They will help to regulate your biological clock, aid digestion, increase energy, improve your focus, increase awareness, and improve your outlook on life. And I cover these dinacharya in detail in episode number 16, so check that out. Now, if you want help implementing these practices and further education on how to become your own healer, and you like to study by yourself, check out my Daily Habits for Holistic Health program, which is a 28-day online self-paced program. You'll find that link in the show notes, or again, go to my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com. So lots of support there, whether you want to chat to me or do a self-paced program. Okay, moving along in our holistic strategy. Obviously, we need to look at mindfulness when it comes to managing stress, promoting a sattvic state of mind, which is associated with calmness, harmony, and balance. I discussed the importance of building up a resilience to stress in my recent Q&A episode, number 336. With mindfulness practices like pranayama, which are breathing exercises, meditation, yoga, tai chi, you're essentially bringing your awareness to the present moment. And as long as you're feeling safe in the present moment, you shouldn't feel stress. Stress often comes when we're wanting the present moment to be something other than what it is, or we're making up a virtual story in our mind, or our mind is jumping to the future and possible what-if scenarios or worst-case scenarios, which is a tendency of the Vata dosha, or maybe we're dwelling in the past, which is a tendency of the Kapha dosha. So sometimes it doesn't have to be an outside stressor. We can be manifesting stress in our own body by these tendencies. And so by bringing our mind to the calmness of the present moment, we reduce that stress. With a calming, slow pranayama, meditation, or slow yoga practice, we can slow the breath down, which signals to our body that we're safe and it can continue to carry out all the necessary functions as normal. Taking time in nature could also be a mindfulness practice, or for some people, doing a creative activity really brings them to the present moment and stops that mind from being so busy. Creative activities like cooking, art, gardening, writing, music can be many things. But the easiest way for all of us to calm the body down is by using our breath and taking a deep belly breath, using the full capacity of our lungs. And then a long exhale, signaling to our body that we're in a relaxed state and it's safe to be in the parasympathetic nervous system or the rest and digest system. This is a really simple tool we all have available to us at all times to help manage our stress levels. The next one I want to look at is exercise. I'm going to spend some time talking about exercise, as this is a common problem I see again and again with people trying to lose weight. And part of the reason they're having trouble is due to an exercise program, which is actually causing stress and this stress response in their body and mind. And in that recent Q&A episode, number 336, I talked about building up a buffer to stress via exercise, and how a small amount of stress is beneficial for the body and mind. And you can train the body to feel the effort or the stress and then use that deep belly breath to calm the body down again. In moderate amounts, exercising like this is beneficial. So you're basically taking your body to the point where you can no longer breathe out your nose, or you can no longer hold a conversation. So when we start breathing out our mouth, the body may be perceiving some stress. So if you're doing an interval workout, you're taking that interval to the point where you can no longer comfortably breathe out your nose and you're starting to grasp for breath. Then you stop, you calm the body down with the breath, and then you can go again. And so exercising like this can be beneficial because it's helping the body adapt to the stress of exercise and general stress in life. But in this episode, I would like to highlight the problems of over-exercising, or it doesn't have to be just over-exercising. In fact, it could be a case where a person will start an intense workout program or start running because they want to lose weight. However, if their body is already in a state of chronic or long-term stress, this intense exercise will just add to their stress levels and have the opposite effect on their body than they want. Now, I was a former over-exercise, so I can attest to this. In fact, that's how I started my journey with Ayurveda, as I pushed my body to the brink and I ended up stressed physically, mentally. I was completely burnt out. And that's how I ended up in Bali, experiencing my first panchakarma. I discussed that whole story in detail in episode number 5 called Healing in Bali, if you want to check it out. But during physical activity, cortisol is released as part of the body's natural stress response. However, excessive exercise or starting an intense exercise program when you're already stressed, this can lead to chronically elevated cortisol levels, which in turn can have many detrimental effects on your body, such as no weight loss or maybe even weight gain. You may notice that you're not seeing results of your exercise. Your exercise results may plateau, or like I said, you may start to notice weight gain even though you're exercising. You may have chronic fatigue where you just feel depleted, constant tiredness. You may feel like if you lay down in the middle of the day, you'll just fall into a deep sleep. And there can be a lack of motivation. However, there can be still this obsessive feeling or desire to exercise. Insomnia can happen with over-exercising or exercising even at the wrong time of day. After 7 p.m., Ayurveda says we should not be stimulating ourselves with exercise because this will overstimulate the nervous system. There can be a lack of focus, unable to concentrate, and mood changes like irritability, anxiety, or feeling low or depressed. Stressing your body out with over-exercising or intense exercise can lead to a weakened immune system, resulting in frequent colds or flus where you feel like you're catching any illness that's going around. You may have longer recovery times after exercising where your muscles stay sore for longer than usual, even after taking time to rest. You may feel a plateau or decline in your performance. And you may be prone to injuries, susceptible to injuries like inflammation, strain, stress factors. So if you're wanting to lose weight, it's important to choose the right exercise program for your current health status and for your constitution. Now, of course, this needs to be really tailored to each person, but I am going to give you some general guidelines. For example, if you have a high Vata constitution or maybe a Vata aggravation where your mind is restless, you're having difficulty sleeping and maybe feeling anxious, then an intense exercise program or starting running would not be ideal as it will increase Vata. So choosing an exercise program that's going to calm the Vata dosha while toning the body would be ideal. Pilates is wonderful because it's less movement, but really focused exercise, which means your mind has to focus on what it's doing. Bring your mind to the present moment. So it's meeting lots of needs for Vata, grounding, focusing the mind and toning the body without intensity and stimulation. And then weight training is great because the weights are very grounding. And again, there's a focus challenge for Vata. If you have a high Pitta constitution or Pitta aggravation where your mind is intense and you're feeling overheated physically and emotionally, doing a intense workout program like a CrossFit or intense running program will only increase the intensity and competitiveness that's naturally there. So choosing an exercise program to cool Pitta while releasing the tension in the body and mind will be best. An ideal workout for Pitta is swimming. You're in the cool water, which is cooling and calming, and it's an ideal workout, and you're still getting a challenge because of the density of the water. Now, if you have a high Kapha constitution or a Kapha aggravation, where your body and mind may be feeling sluggish, you may be feeling a lack of motivation, well, this is where you need stimulation of that Rajas mental guna I talked about earlier. And so doing a moderate HIIT workout where you take that interval to where you can no longer breathe out your nose and then stopping and calming the body with a deep belly breath, this is ideal as you're getting the stimulation the body needs and raising the heart rate. So entering into that acute stress, but not staying there. And so your body recovers and learns that this type of stress does not require the activation of the sympathetic nervous system. So that HIIT workout, that moderate HIIT workout is great for Kapha. And as a former personal trainer, exercise advice tailored to your unique constitution is something I always include in my consultations. And as I said earlier, when it comes to managing stress and weight loss, it needs to be a holistic approach tailored to your mind, body type, and your lifestyle. And if it's not a sustainable strategy, it won't last. And that's my focus on educating you on your mind, body type, the root of the issues, and teach you how to manage your own healthcare with an approach that's not overwhelming, but easy to slot into your life and an approach that's sustainable for your lifetime. And so if you want support, please check out my online services on my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com. You'll find my online consultations. And I also have the private Digestive Reset Cleanse, which comes with a 90-minute online consultation. And by the way, my next group discounted cleanse will start October 4th. So at the end of the summer to get rid of that accumulation of heat in the body. And I also have the educational program I mentioned earlier, the Daily Habits for Holistic Health program, that 28-day online self-paced program. And if you have any questions before you book, then please take advantage of my free 15-minute online Services Enquiry Call. We can hop on Zoom and I can answer all of your questions. So there you go. I hope that was helpful in really understanding the correlation between stress and weight gain. And again, stress being something that we all have to contend with in our world today. If you think that this episode will be helpful to family or friends, please share this information so we can spread this wisdom of Ayurveda. And if you feel like you're getting benefit from this podcast, I would really appreciate a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcast. And thank you in advance for that. If you haven't already subscribed or followed the podcast, please do so, and the free weekly episodes will automatically download for you. And come join me on social media. On Instagram, my new page is Elements of Ayurveda Podcast, and on Facebook, it's Elements Healing and Wellbeing. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take good care of yourself, be well, and bye for now. Slán go fóill.